Hello, Wheel of Time community, and welcome to the Wheel of Time pod through. I'm Teresa.
And I'm Tim.
And together, we're going to walk through Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time book series. How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing good. It's been a good week. We closed a whole bunch of cool stuff out at work, and I'm really excited to be doing another podcast.
Great. So before we get started, we just want to remind you that this is a reread. We assume that you've read the entire series, so there will be spoilers. You have been warned. All right, Tim, what are we going to be doing in today's episode?
Today we're going to be discussing chapters 51 and 52 of The Dragon Reborn, where the Supergirls are totally screwed and Matt is a little late. Chapter 51 is called Bait for the Net, and the icon is the two faces.
Here's a quick summary to act as a reminder for those of you who are not reading along with us. From the corner of her eye, Nynaeve is sure that she glimpses Rand, but thinks that it couldn't be so. She turns back to her errands, frustrated by the high prices and poor quality, but even more so at the apathy of the people around her. The Terrans seemed ready to lie down and die, a concept so foreign to someone from the Two Rivers that she didn't know what to do with them and had very little patience for them. On top of that, Egwene was still being a brat, everyone was having bad dreams, Sandar still hadn't found the Black Aja fugitives, and Nynaeve is fit to chew nails, she's so frustrated. She runs smack dab into Julian Sandar, who was looking for her. He nervously tells her that the others are waiting. He found who they were looking for in the stone, guests of the High Lord Salmon, and she has to return with him right now. They rush back to Mama G's house. As soon as she gets inside, Nynaeve sees Mama G trapped, struggling against flows of air. Before she can do anything about it, though, Nynaeve is shielded from the power. Liandrin and Rhianna come in smirking. Liandrin starts to say something mocking, but Nynaeve hauls off and hits her in the mouth as hard as she could. She backhands Rhianna so hard she knocks her over and shoves Liandrin away from the door. Blows of air pummel her as Nynaeve struggles to get to the door, thinking of Egwene and Elaine. The onslaught is too much for her, and she crumples to the floor, a ball of pain. Once Nynaeve is subdued, Rhianna wants to kill Mama G, but Liandrin thinks she can still be of use. She threatens Mama G that if she says anything, the High Lord Salmon will easily have her killed. Mama G apologizes to Nynaeve, who tells her that she understands. Liandrin and Rhianna take Nynaeve outside, where they are joined by guards and the other Black Aja fugitives. Elaine is there, battered and bruised, and Egwene is unconscious. When they tried to capture her, she fought like mad, and they had to knock her out to subdue her. Julian Sandar is on his knees in the mud, and Nynaeve demands to know why he betrayed them. He's staring at Liandrin like a faithful dog, and Liandrin explains that she had to persuade him. Nynaeve wonders what on earth they did to the man. They force the girls into a lacquered coach and bind them in flows of air all the way up to their necks. Nynaeve and Elaine try to throw the Black Sisters off with a quickly made lie, but Liandrin isn't fazed. She tells them that they will tell all they know soon enough. Belial has summoned 13 Myrjal, and they will make the girls obedient. Nynaeve and Elaine start screaming as the coach drives off towards the stone.
Right at the top of the chapter, Nynaeve sees a tall man with reddish hair and a swirling brown cloak, who's carrying a wooden flute case. But she writes it off as not being Rand because she still thinks that he's back on Almuth Plain. And it just made me realize just how much has happened in this book and how separated our characters have been.
Right?
The last time the girls saw Rand and Perrin, Rand was almost being worshipped by Shnerian soldiers, and Perrin was just figuring out his wolf powers, like all the way back in Falme. It just seemed like forever ago at this point.
Yeah.
And I think Jordan did this on purpose because this chapter starts the mad rush of events to the end of this book that ends with them all being reunited in the same place again, fighting the shadow together. Mm-hmm. It makes us, or at least it made me, unconsciously think about where we started in terms of character development and plot, right as we're about to see the fruit of each character's journey come to light in this final climax. And he does it with just a couple of sentences, with Nynaeve being very much Nynaeve herself. I just it just makes me laugh and feel really nostalgic. Mm-hmm. Say what you will about Nynaeve being prickly, stubborn, and sometimes a downright bully, but we have seen her start to grow in this book. She starts off in this chapter extremely irritable and is venting her frustration on the butcher. But as she walks back to Mama G's house with her meat, she starts to reflect on how she needs to give the people of Tyr a break. She moves from a place of thinking that the Two Rivers people will just carry on and figure out things, to realizing that the people of Tyr take things that Nynaeve cringes at as a matter of life. She realizes that she needs to have patience with them. The Nynaeve that we met at the start of the Eye of the World may not have been able to come to this conclusion. Nynaeve is far from perfect, but she is growing up and is trying to figure things out.
Mm-hmm.
I like how Julian comes off as nervous here and not the same confident person that he was when we first met him. Like, Nynaeve can tell that something is wrong and chalks it up to the confusion over the Black Oj being guests of the High Lord. But I remember the first time I read this having the feeling right away that something was not right. I'll admit, I'm not the most observant of readers, and it takes me several rereads to catch on to some things, but I was not sure about what was happening, but I knew Julian was not himself.
Yeah, totally.
And what do Two Rivers girls do when their lives are on the line and the power fails them? They knock some heads, throw some punches, and refuse to go down without a fight.
Every time.
Yeah. Like, Egwene and Nynaeve both have no issues with resorting to physical attacks when they can't use the power, which never fails to surprise the Black Aja. I guess they actually expect people to just give up when they're separated from the source because the tower does not teach physical defense. That's what warders are for, right? It's too bad that Nynaeve was outnumbered here because I would have totally loved to see her put Liandrin in her place.
Totally. And I think you're right. Like, I think the Aes Sedai become too reliant on the power that they forget that there are other ways, you know? Like, just because Nynaeve is shielded and can't use the power doesn't mean she's defenseless.
Right. She's still a threat.
Like, she absolutely is. Like, she just hauls off and, like, punches Liandrin in the mouth, knocks Rihanna over. She pushes her so hard. Like, she's not just going to, like, lay down and let them capture her. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
You know? And apparently, Elaine knows how to throw a punch just as well as our Two Rivers girls. Like, when Nynaeve sees her, the book says, quote, Elaine stood between the two black sisters with a bruised eye and a swollen cheek and a split lip, one sleeve of her dress torn halfway off. It sounds like she gave as good as she got.
Yeah, it sure does.
Like, she may be a princess, but girlfriend's not going down without a fight. Liandrin tells Nynaeve, quote, you fought almost as wildly as that other foolish girl, that Egwene. She almost went mad.
Oy.
They actually had to knock her out because Egwene fought so hard. As much as I really hate Egwene in this book, and we all know that I do, and I think she's just a total brat, I can't help but feel really bad for her in this chapter.
Yeah.
You know, like, she's still suffering with PTSD from her time as a Seanchan prisoner. And for Liandrin to have captured her again, it must have felt like her nightmares coming true, you know? Like, she's completely re-traumatized.
Yeah, yeah.
She told herself several times in this book that she would rather die than be captured again, you know? And this is just the worst, you know? Like, I have a lot of compassion for what she must be going through. Like, just, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's, I don't know how to put that into words. Like, this is bad. This is bad for her.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like, I really do hate her in this book.
Yes, yeah, we've established that, yes.
But I feel so bad for her, you know? Like, and I feel like I've kind of lost that throughout the book. Like, I started out feeling really bad for her because it was so obvious. Her PTSD symptoms were coming out so strongly.
Yeah.
Like, when they encounter the White Cloaks on their way into Tar Valon, like, Egwene's first instinct is defense because she's just, I'm not going to be captured again, you know?
Yeah, and not just massive defense, like overkill defense.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it totally makes sense. And I felt really bad for her at the time. But I think as the book went on, I kind of forgot how much that she's suffering.
Yeah.
You know? And how she's, how mentally she's still really affected by it. because she's just such a brat over nothing, you know?
Yeah, it gets lost in that.
In this chapter, like all of that, oh yeah, she's really, really suffering, has come back. And I remember this poor girl, you know? So I don't know. I felt really, really bad for Egwene in this chapter.
Yeah. So, hold on a second. Like, why did they let Mama G live? I mean, I'm glad she lives, but this was stupid to let her live. I guess bad guys just got a bad guy, and this is a really great way to show how arrogant and pretentious Liandrin is. But this was a really short-sighted of the Black Sisters. Like, I guess we just have to chalk it up to the pattern, making sure that Matt was able to track down the girls, but this was Class A stupid.
Well, I mean, I don't know that I agree with that necessarily. Liandrin is right when she tells Rihanna, you're too quick to kill people. I don't know what use Mama G was going to be, but like it's possible that they could have made more use of her or Julian Sander. You know, like even though you're a bad guy, it doesn't mean you automatically kill people just because you're done with them, because you don't know what use they're going to be to you in the future. You know, yes, in this particular instance, what use is Mama G going to be to them? I don't really know. They probably could have just killed her and it would have been fine for them. But like, I think Liandrin has been spending several months now surrounded by these people, who she personally thinks she's better than.
That's true.
And I don't know. I understand where Liandrin's coming from as far as you're too quick to kill people. You know, you don't know what use that they can serve. And Liandrin threatens Mama G so much. Like, she's convinced that this woman is in her pocket.
Okay.
So I get why she wants to have people on hand that are in her pocket that she feels she is completely controlling.
Okay.
You know, like, she doesn't know how much longer they're going to be in Tyr. You never know.
Well, and Mama, I see where you're going with this, because Mama G is, I mean, it's not like she's a person of nobility. She has no power. She has no connection. So even if she were to start speaking out, yeah, it might be inconvenient for them, but I don't think it would be.
Well, they'll just have her killed. Like, she's of no threat to them. That's what it is. As far as Liandrin is concerned, this woman is of no threat to them. She's basically garbage. But because she's of no threat, she might be able to be put to use while Liandrin is still in Tyr. And then when they're ready to leave Tyr, then they can just have her killed. Yeah,
but every cop show I've ever watched, every movie about mobsters I've ever watched, no. You have a witness here. I'm sorry. The smart thing to do is kill her and then frame it so that the three girls are the ones who get blamed, and then you cart them off. And now the authorities are looking for the three missing people who killed Mama G.
Right.
That's the smart play.
I mean, Liandrin's not super smart. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're right. She leaves her alive because of plot convenience.
Yeah.
But I do understand wanting to have this person in your pocket for the length of your stay, and then have her killed when you're ready to leave.
Right.
You know.
You're right. Okay, I hear it. That makes a lot more sense.
I don't think Liandrin's going to keep her alive forever. Just while they're in
ready
Tyr.
to leave. Yeah, got it. Okay, that makes more. Okay, that makes more sense.
I like that Nynaeve immediately absolves the Mother Gwenna of blame.
Yeah,
like she recognizes that all Mama G can do is get herself killed, and that's not going to help anybody. Going back to what you were saying earlier, I think it shows a little bit of Nynaeve's growth that she's so quick to understand and forgive.
Yeah, she totally she puts herself in Mama G's shoes and can see her making the
she
same
knows
choice.
There's nothing she can do. So, yeah. Nynaeve tries to confront Julian Sandar, and we get this passage. Quote, Liandrin laughed, tangling a hand in Sandar's black hair. She wrenched his head back. He stared up at her with the eyes of a faithful hound, or of a cur expecting a kick. Do not be too hard on this man. She even made man sound like dog. He had to be persuaded to serve. But I am very good at persuading, no? She laughed again. Sandar turned a confused stare on Nynaeve. I had to do it, Mistress Miriam. I had to. Liandrin twisted his hair, and his eyes went back to her, the anxious hounds once more. Light, Nynaeve thought. What did they do to him? So we've talked a little bit about Liandrin's talent at compulsion.
Yeah.
It's not the same level that we see the Forsaken use, but she is able to scramble the brains a bit. Certainly enough to get Sandar to do what she wants. So it's not really his fault that he betrays the girls.
Like, he still feels guilty about it. Like eventually he starts to like come through and understand what he's done, and he feels horrible about it.
Yeah.
But it's not his fault.
No. And like, it's interesting because here it looks like Nynaeve understands like that obviously Liandrin did something to him and he's not okay. But she does sort of hold it against him for a while.
Well, it's kind of hard not to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Because he was the instrument of them being captured and the instrument of Egwene being traumatized again.
Yeah.
So, like, I get why she holds it against him. But it's interesting that Jordan chose to put that, like, little bit of understanding and then sort of, like, takes it back later, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Jordan ends this chapter with a really great cliffhanger. 13 Fades are on their way, meaning that the Black Sisters intend to force the Supergirls to serve the Dark One. I really can't think of anything more terrifying to be faced with than that.
They really teased out the whole 13 by 13 thing.
They really did.
Like, it was introduced to us in Egwene's test in this book, right?
Yeah.
But we didn't actually really see it in practice until, was it Gathering Storm?
Yeah, I think.
Or was it the one that comes after that?
I can't remember. It was definitely
Towers
just
of Midnight?
I think it was one of the final 3 books. I can't remember.
It's definitely in the final 3. I don't know if it's the second to last or the third to last. But, like, we had to wait a really, really long time to see that actually come into practice.
Yep. But yeah, it's still a terrifying thought.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That wraps up Chapter 51. Chapter 52 is called In Search of a Remedy, and the icon is Tom's harp.
Tom's cough has progressively gotten worse and worse until neither man can ignore it any longer, and Matt has to get him some medical care. The innkeeper gives Matt directions to the local wise woman, and despite Tom's grumblings that he's fine, Matt drags him to see none other than Mama G herself. Matt recognizes her house as the one he saw in the lightning flash his first night on the docks in Tyr. Mama G is hesitant, but after listening to Tom's wheezes, she lets them in and starts brewing a tea to treat him. Tom is not a good patient, but Mama G strong arms her concoction down his throat. Her accent reminds Matt strongly of the Amyrlin, and he mentions it to Mama G that he knows a woman who spoke like her, all fish and nets and things. Mama G responds that she knew 2 young women with Matt's accent, and Matt realizes that she has to mean Egwene and Nynaeve. Momentarily thrilled at his luck, Matt asks where the girls are and tells Mama G that they're in danger. Mama G tries to explain about the High Lords in Tyr and how much danger she is in, but Matt convinces her to tell that the High Lord Salmon sent Aes Sedai to take them to the stone. At first, Matt is relieved, thinking that the girls would be safe with Aes Sedai, but Mama G explains how hard they fought and how badly they were treated. She can see how much Matt cares for the girls, and she's sorry. But Matt will not be deterred. Now that he knows where the girls are, all he has to do is figure out how to break into the Stone of Tyr and get them back out again. No big. He leaves a very disgruntled Tom in Mama G's strong and capable hands and sets off to break into the fortress. He can hear the dice tumbling in his head.
Reading about Matt taking care of Tom kind of made me think back to the first book where he took care of Rand after he came down with channeling sickness.
Aw, yeah.
Matt really is a good friend to have around. It could have been really easy for him to just left Tom's and let him stay sick at the end, while Matt went out to keep looking for the girls. But Matt knows that the cough is going to need a little extra help and chooses to get Tom to a wise woman. It's such a stark contrast to Dagger Matt of the last book. Like, when the chips are down, you could really count on Matt 2.0 to be a friend.
Yeah. And I like how Matt's still trying to pretend he's all like badass and tough. And
the whole
like,
time, yeah.
Oh, his cough is keeping me awake, and I just don't want to be saddled with it. Grumble. When he really does care deeply about Tom.
Yeah, he's actually kind of concerned for Tom with this cough.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Tom is the worst patient ever.
Basically.
Like, I love all the grousing and complaining he does. But I also really love how Mama G strong arms him and forces the medicine in him, like, even more. Like, it's like trying to get a cat to take a pill. And I think this whole scene is hilarious. And the best part is a little bit later, like, how affronted Tom is when Matt leaves him with Mama G.
Yes.
Like, I mean, the truth is, Tom does really need looking after right now, but he's so insulted that Matt thinks he can save the girls without him.
Right?
You know?
Yeah.
I love everything
Yeah.
about this chapter. This chapter makes me so happy.
You're going to leave me here with a strange woman who's forcing me to sit
He's
down?
so
Yeah,
mad.
yeah.
Like, you know when you, like, drop your animal off at the vet or at, like, an overnight daycare or something, because you're going out of town or whatever it might be, and, like, they sort of look at you like, how can you abandon me in this moment? How dare you
Yeah.
leave me with these strangers?
Yeah.
That's what I'm feeling with Tom this whole chapter. It's like Matt's just kind of like dropping him off at the vet.
It's kind of funny that Matt is weirded out by the fact that Mama G talks like Suan Sanchi. I mean, the last time we heard her accent, he was running as fast as he could from Tar Valon. So it makes sense that he finds it so startling. It kind of makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Matt is so relieved to know where the girls are that it kind of just goes over his head that Mama G basically gave them up to the Black Aja on a silver platter.
Yeah.
She feels so bad about it, but he's overcome by the joy and doesn't care. He can fix this. He has luck on his side. He'll bring them home, and it'll all be better.
I like the bit where Matt's talking to himself and he says, "Burn me. I stood right out there in the rain and stared at this house. Burn me for a bloody, light-blinded fool." "If you break your hand," Mama Gwynna said, "I will splint and poultice it, but if you damage my wall, I will strip your hide like a redfish." He blinked, then looked at his fist at scraped knuckles. He did not even remember punching the wall. I liked what Jordan did here, showing how deeply Matt cares for the girls without having to say it.
Yeah.
Also, while Mama G makes the wrong assumption that he's in love with one of them, I personally am a big fan of the fact that Matt is not at all in love with any of them. You know, like,
yeah.
he cares deeply for Nynaeve and Egwene, and eventually Elaine, and goes to all sorts of heroic lengths to save them, but he does it out of platonic love, not romantic love.
Yes.
Like, thank you, sir. Can we please have more of that? Mm-hmm. I'm so, so happy that Jordan put that relationship in this book, you know?
Yeah.
Not just in this book, but in this series. Like, we'll see over and over again how much Matt cares specifically for Nynaeve.
Yes.
And also Egwene, and the lengths that he goes to, and vice versa. You know, like, I think it's in book 6, maybe. I don't know if it's Path of Daggers or if it's the one that's right before that. When they're in Abu Dar and the Shan-Chen come and everything goes to hell and they have to, like, run away with the kin.
Yeah, yeah.
And, like, they have to leave Matt behind. Mm-hmm. And Nynaeve wants to go back, even though she knows she's risking, like,
everything.
Shan-Chen slavery, and she wants to go back for Matt. Like, she cannot leave Matt behind. And it just, they care very, very deeply about each other. Not at all romantically.
Yes.
Like, this is a family kind of love.
It really is.
And I'm so, so happy that is part of this series, because so often, yeah, people will go to all sorts of lengths to save each other, but it's because they're like soulmates. They're my one true love, you know? And it's like, well, that's great, but there's other stuff out there too, you know?
Yeah.
And especially because this is male-female relationships.
Yes.
You know, because, you know, like, we'll see men go into heroic lengths to save, like, a brother or their best friend, but it's that, like, bro camaraderie stuff.
It really is, yeah.
But whenever it's a man saving a woman, it's because he loves her, you know? And so I really, really love that he's not in love with any of these people, you know?
They're just his family.
Yeah. Matt is such a charmer. Like, he almost can't help himself when it comes to flirting. He gives Mama G a kiss on the cheek and teases her when she calls him a headstrong fool. And it's all in good fun. Mama G has him sized up in an instant, so I can't help but be charmed myself by Matt.
Yeah.
You know, like, he's so funny, and he's always giving someone like a wink or a kiss or something like that, you know?
He is.
It's funny. It's fun. I like it.
We end this chapter with this bit where Matt reflects on how impossible the task before him is, basically how it's never been done before. And his reaction is priceless. With a laugh that made even the sullen folk in the street look at him, he headed back for the White Crescent, uncaring of mud or the damp heat. He could feel the dice tumbling in his head. It's such a great way to clue us into what is ahead of us. The first time I read this, I remember feeling excited, and I couldn't put the book down because I had to know what Matt was going to do.
Yeah.
Because I 100% believed he was going to do it, but I could not wait to see how he was going to pull it off.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. And so is this the first time that we see the dice rattling in Matt's head?
It might actually be.
Like, it becomes a major thing with him to indicate when something important is going to happen. And I can't remember if it happened before this, but I think this is the first time.
I'm racking my brain, and I want to say possibly it happened
Maybe
that
it's Magical Night. Yeah.
That magical night, I think, might have been the first time the dice were rolling in his head.
Yeah, you know what? That makes sense. Although...
But we haven't seen it since.
Yeah, and he was doing so much, like, gambling and crazy stuff.
Yeah.
It might have gotten lost. But yeah, you're right. I think the dice were rattling sometime during that chapter. Maybe.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember. But yeah, I don't think we've seen it since then, since his magical night.
But this book is definitely where that gets introduced, and I think to really great effect.
Yeah, absolutely. It becomes a great indicator. It's like every time Nynaeve can feel a storm brewing, she knows something big is happening.
And it's not a storm.
It's not the weather. Whereas with Matt, every time he can feel the dice rolling around in his head, he's like, oh crap, something big's gonna happen. Yeah.
And that's it for chapters 51 and 52 of The Dragon Reborn. Join us next week to discuss chapters 53 and 54, where Fail is held hostage by a hedgehog and everybody and their mother is on the roof.
We hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Wheel of Time Pod Through.
We'll see you again next week. Make sure that you rate and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or whatever your favorite podcatcher might be. If you could leave us a positive review, it would really help us out. It makes us more visible so more people can find us. You can tweet us at WhatPodThrough or email us at whatpodthrough@gmail.com and tell us your thoughts on anything we covered today.
That's WOTPODTHRU@gmail.com, or find our Wheel of Time Pod Through channel on YouTube. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, do the things. Thanks, everybody, and we hope the wheel weaves you in our direction again soon. I have no idea where we are.